Hey beautiful people. You're welcome back again to my YouTube channel, and if you're new here, you're highly welcome. Do well to hit the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. So in this video, we'll be making this beautiful trendy boba crop top with this belt sleeve that has a slanted shape at the down, and also we'll be making a skirt as well. So the drafting, the cutting, and the sewing of the crop top, the sleeve, and the skirts are all in this video. Yes, all in one. So do not touch that down. Let's dive right in. So these are the measurements that will be used for drafting out the skirt and also drafting out the boba crop top, and also we'll be drafting out the skirt's front pattern first. The front pattern of the skirt, that's what we're going to begin with. So let's start. Now the first step you would want to take is to come down by 1 inch from the starting of your paper to mark out the start line or the top line. Yes. Now I have done a very detailed, expansive tutorial on how to draft a skirt. Yes, but there were a few things that I didn't get to mention, so I'm mentioning those few things while drafting out the skirt. So I'm connecting these dots right now to get a straight line, which I have done. And the next step right now is to mark out the hip line or the hip depth. Now if you've watched my videos several times, you understand how I mark out my hip line. So for this, the person is of an average height, so I'll be making use of 8 inches. If the person is very short, make use of 7 inches. If the person is tall, make use of 9 inches, starting from your top line, of course. And if the person is extremely tall, make use of 10 inches. So for this, the person is of an average height, I made use of 8 inches, which I've marked out and connected to get a straight line. So this line is the hip line or the hip depth. So next step is to go ahead and measure from the waist to the knee to get the knee line. Now if you've watched my video on how to draft out a skirt, you should be able to know how to measure for your knee line correctly. So for this, the knee line is 21 inches from the waist. So you can see the way my tape is placed. Now ideally, after marking out your knee line, you go up by 2 inches from your knee line to mark out the new knee line. And this is because you don't want it to be tight around the knee after sewing, or in a case of whereby you're making a mermaid skirt, you don't want it to be tight. You know, mermaid skirts do not have slit, so you don't want the skirt to be tight around the knee, so you have to go by 2 inches from the knee line to mark as the new knee line. But for this, I don't need to do that because this person's skirt is shorter than the knee line. The skirt is above the knee, so I'm just going to mark the actual knee line and leave it like that. So right now, I'll go ahead and mark out the skirt length for this pattern. Now the skirt length for this pattern is 18 inches. That is how long this skirt is going to be, 18 inches. And that is what I'm marking out from my top line. So whatever you're marking out, your tape should start from the top line. That is that starting line that we marked out earlier on. So that is just it. So I've marked out 18 inches, and I'll bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like this. And this line is the skirt length. Yes, how long I want the skirt to be. Now the next step is to go ahead and divide your round waist measurement by 4 and mark it out. Now for the front pattern, I'm not going to include that. I don't want that for the front pattern. If you want that for the front pattern, you add 1 inch to your measurement after dividing it by 4. But since I'm not adding that, I'll just divide the round waist measurement by 4 and mark it out, which I've done. Now on the hip is 37 divided by 4 gives me 9.25, and I've also gone ahead to mark it out on the hip line, and I'll connect this to the waist like this. So after connecting this, next step is to go ahead and mark out on your knee line. Now to mark on your knee line, all you have to do is whatever you have on your hip line, that is from this point to this point, you subtract 2. So here I have 9.25 minus 2 gives me 7.25, and that is what I'm marking out on the knee line. You get. So 2 inches is the standard number. Now, if you've watched my skirt pattern, you see that I also gave other figures for different sizes of pom-poms. But those figures are majorly used in two situations. One, when the slit is going to be very high, and 2 for only picture purpose. So if you want the client to move freely, the standard number you should subtract from the hip line to mark out on the knee line is 2 inches for any sizes of bum bum. So that is just it. Yeah. And this is something I forgot to mention during the drafting of the skirt pattern tutorial video that I uploaded some time ago. So this is the little talk that I forgot to mention. So this is the front pattern, and of course I'm cutting this out like this. And after cutting out, this is the center front and that is the side front. So now that I have cut out the front pattern, the next step is to go ahead and cut out the back pattern. So for that, I'll get another pattern paper, and I will actually come down by 1 inch from the starting of the paper, from the beginning of the paper, to get the starting line. So most times you can decide to come down or not, but why I just decided to come down by 1 inches most times when drafting any pattern is because there are some times or some styles that requires some alterations here and there, and it involves going up at the waist and all of other things. So that's why, just in case I'm doing any of those styles, so I'll know, okay, there is room above to do those kind of alterations. So next step, I'm marking out all the lines that are needed for the back pattern. So of course the hip line is needed, which I'm marking out 8 inches. So I'm going ahead to mark out 8 inches from the starting line or top line. And after marking out 8 inches, I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this. Now this, after getting the hip line or the hip depth, the next step is to mark out the knee line. So I'll go ahead and also place my tape here and mark out the knee line. And obviously the knee line, which is what we also used at the front pattern, is 21 inches. I'll go ahead and mark that out here. So if there's any parts that does confuse you, just drop your question on the comment section, and I will try my best as much as possible to respond to your question, to give you an answer. So this line is the knee line. Next, I'll go ahead and mark out the skirt length, that is how long the skirt is going to be, and obviously it's 18 inches. That's what I marked out for the front pattern. So for you, just decide where you want your skirt to stop and measure from your waist to where you want it to stop and mark it out. Yeah. So for these, I'm making use of 18 inches. That is how long or how short this skirt is going to be. So I'll connect the dots to get a straight line like this, baby. And this is the skirt length. Yeah. Now, after doing this, the next most important line is the underbutt line. Now, you can either measure from your waist to underneath the butt to get the underbutt line, or you can just go ahead and if you didn't get to measure for your clients, if you didn't get to measure for your clients, you can just go up from your knee line by 7 inches for an average bum size, 6 inches for a very curvy person, and 8 inches for a tall person. So for these, for an average height, I'm going up by 7 inches. And that is 7 inches from the knee line. Yeah, from the knee line. Let me indicate that whatever you're going up with is from the knee line. But if you measure, make sure you place your tape at the deepest part of your back to underneath the bum to measure the underbutt line. That is if you want to take your measurement. But if you didn't take the measurement, not to worry. Just follow the simple rules that I listed at earlier on. So I've labeled all the lines, and if you measure from the waist to underneath the butt, you can see I have about 14 inches here for the underbutt line, and that is mostly the figures that most normal average height what's average height bum-bums? That's the figures that they normally have. So I've indicated the center back and the side back on this pattern. Next, to avoid any budging of the zip at the back, go in by 0.75 inch on the waist like this, on the waistline. Yeah, and connect this to the hip line. So this is just a form of back tightening. It's a 75 percent back tightening that helps with eliminating bulging of the zip. This way your zip just relaxes with bum bum. It just lie flat on the bum bum. That is what this does. Now go ahead and mark out the waist measurement after dividing by 4. So the waist measurement for this pattern is 30 inches divided by 4 gives me 7.5. And for this back pattern, I want to have that on the back, so I'll be adding 1 inch to the 7.5, making it 8.5 that I marked out. And you can see I placed my tape from that back tightening line. Yeah, that's 0.75. Next, I'll divide the round hip by 4 and also mark it out on the hip line, and I'll connect it like this. So I'll connect it to the waist like this. And then on the knee line, there is what we call knee contour. That is, to give that knee a shape. Now for the knee contour, you have to do is to go in from your center back on the knee line, go in by 1 inch like this. Just go in by 1 inch for any size of bum bum. Go in by 1 inch, and this 1 inch you connect it to the underbutt line like this. So you connect it to the underbutt line like this on the center back. And now I can go ahead and mark out my knee line measurement, which is 7.25. I'll make sure I place my tape starting from this line to mark it out. So I'll connect this, what I've marked out, the 7.25. I'll connect it to the hip line like this. I hope this does not confuse you. Yeah, so the next step right now is to mark out the dart line on this back pattern. I added 1 inch for dart allowance while marking out the waist measurement. So there are 2 ways you can mark out the dart line. You can either just get the midpoint of your waist measurement, that's of your waistline, or you can use your bust part measurement. So for this, I'm using the midpoint. So I'm getting the midpoint of this waistline like this, and I'm marking it out. So this is the midpoint of the waistline. And then from the hip line, I'll go up by 2 inches from the hip line. So I'll go ahead and go up by 2 inches from the hip line like this, and I will make sure this line is straight. So I've gone ahead to measure out what I have here and also mark that out on this 2 inches points like this. So whatever I have here, I'll mark it out here as well, just to get a straight dart line. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'll bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like this. Next step, I'll go in and out on both sides of this dart by half an inch, and I'll connect these half inches to this point like this. That is half inch, 0.5 inch. Yeah. So I'll connect this to this point, and I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern. So please watch how the back pattern is being cut out. So indicate your center front, your center back and your side back, so you don't get confused. And don't forget to indicate the back pattern on your back pattern as well. Now, because this is a skirt, I'll be needing a waistband. So I'll be cutting out the waistband from this pattern. So I'll go ahead and place my tape from the waist like this and mark down 1.5. So I'm coming down by 1.5. That is how wide I want this waistband to be. And I'll bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line. Yeah, like this. So after doing this, this is the waistband, and make sure you indicate your center front, your side front, the up and the down. That is the part that is going towards the hip, the part that is going towards the waist. Make sure you indicate it on your waistband, because you'll be cutting this out like this and you don't want to get confused. So you have to indicate all those little informations. Yeah. So next, I would leave half an inch here, 1.5 inch here for allowance when cutting this out on the fabric, 1 inch at the hem for this, or 2 inches, whichever you want to leave at the hem. But for me, I'll be leaving 1 inch for the hemming allowance. And for the center front, you don't need any cutting. So for the back pattern, we'll also go ahead and cut out the waistband. So obviously 1.5 inches is how wide I want this waistband to be. So I'm coming down by 1.5 from the waist like this. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'll go ahead and bring in the rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like so. And don't forget to always indicate on the waistband your center back, your side back, the part that is going towards the up, the part that is going towards the hip, so you don't get confused after cutting the waistband out. So I'll go ahead and cut out this waistband. So I'll go ahead and cut this out like this. Now that I've cut out the waistband, for the allowance, I'll be leaving half an inch at the waistline here while cutting it out on the fabric. And for the center back, I'll be leaving 1 inch because this is where the zip is going to be, obviously. And for the hem, I'll be leaving 1 inch as well. And for the side seam allowance, I'll be leaving 1.5 inches. So these are the allowances I'll be leaving while cutting this out on the fabric. Now we have to focus on the waistband. Now for waistbands, there are no darts on waistbands. So because of that, we're going to close this dart that is on the back waistband. So go ahead and close it like this. You pinch one of the dart's leg and, place it on top of the other dart leg like this. As you can see, you pinch it and then you place it on the other dart leg like this, and then you bring in your paper tape or your sellotape, and then you close it like this. And then you can remove this sharp points here just to remove any form of pointiness, and the waistband is ready. So like this, the waistbands can be cut separately. Yes, you can cut the waistbands separately and attach them separately. Or if you don't want them to be cut separately, you can go ahead and join them together at the sides. Yes, so you join the side front and the side back together. So you can either cut them separately or join them together. So make sure you always indicate every little details on the waistband so you don't get confused. So the sides, I'm going to go ahead and put the sides together like this. That is the side back and the side front are at the same points. So meaning at the side, there will be no stitching at the side. That's what I'm trying to do now. I don't want to cut them separately. I want to cut it as a long strip. I hope you understand. But if I want to cut it separately, no problem, meaning you're going to join it at the side. So for this, there'll be no joining at the side. So I'll just go ahead and bring in tape and close it with the tape. Use the tape to gum it together, glue it together. So obviously this is the center front and it's going to be on fold. Whether you're cutting it separately or not, the center front has to be on fold because there's no opening at the center front. Now for the upper part of the waistband, you can decide to cut it on fold, meaning this curving at the upper part of the waistband won't be there, you get. But if you don't want to cut it on fold, you can just go ahead and leave half an inch for the joining at the top, half an inch for the joining at the down, and for the center back 1 inch because that's for the zipper section. So that's just it. So for mine, I wanted to cut it on fold, that is the upper part on fold, but then I decided to just cut the upper part open, that is leave half an inch for joining on the upper part as well. So you'd see, because I've used that on fold at the upper part very well, too much. I don't know the right word to use. So right now we'll go ahead and cut out the boba crop top. So like always, come down from the beginning of your pattern paper by 1 inch like this to get your top line or your starting line. So this is me drafting out the boba crop top and I'm making use of a new pattern paper. So I'll bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like this, and this line is the starting line or the top line. Next, you go ahead and divide your shoulder measurement by 2 and mark it out. So the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 15 divided by 2 gives me 7.5, which I've marked out here. Now from this shoulder measurement, you go ahead and mark out the armhole depth. Now to get the armhole depth, divide the round bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5 to get the armhole depth for the measurement you're doing for the individual you're drafting for. So right now I'm trying to make sure I would get a straight line after after connecting the armhole depth to the shoulder. So right now you go ahead and connect the armhole depth to the shoulder like this. Next step is to go ahead and mark out the neckline. Now for the neckline, you need to determine the normal regular neckline for that particular individual. And to calculate for the neckline, you divide your round bust measurement by 12. So for this individual, the round bust measurement is 35 divided by 12 gives me 2.9 inches, which I've marked out here as the neck width. And for the neck depth, I will also go ahead and mark 2.9 inches. That is almost 3 inches. So go ahead and calculate for the neckline measurement for the individual you're drafting for, and mark it out as the neck depth and the neck width. So right now, I'll go ahead and connect the neck depth to the neck width to form the normal regular neckline for this individual, for this pattern. And that's going to give me this shape. So after doing this, at the shoulder, I will come down by 1 inch just to get that shoulder slant or slope. And this 1 inch, I'll connect it to the neck width like this. I'll connect it to the neck width like this, and you can see I have that shoulder slant or slope. Next, I'll divide the round bust measurement by 4 and mark it out. So for this individual, the bust measurement is 37 divided by 4 gives me 8.75, and I'll go ahead and place it like this and mark out the 8.75 here. Now, because this is a back crop top with no zip at the back, I'll be adding 1 inch for ease around the bust and for easy wearing as well. So I'll go ahead and add the 1 inch here, and I'll bring in my rule to connect it. So you want this back crop top to be easy for you to put on since there is no zip at the back. So you need to add the 1 inch after marking out your bust measurement. You add 1 inch for ease. Next, I'll find the midpoint of this armhole by placing my tape like this, and then bending my tape over like this, and then pressing this edge here, and whatever markings I get at the middle of the tape is the midpoint. And then from this midpoint, I'll go ahead and come in by 1/2 inch. So I'll go ahead and come in by 1/2 inch. So next, I'll connect these 3 points together to get the armhole curve. Well, if you do not have a curve rule to draw out your curves, you can use your ends to just go ahead and draw it. Just make sure you get a perfect curve. So I'll go ahead and connect the 3 points like this to get the armhole curve. Yay! Now that this is done, we are almost done. The next step is to go ahead and mark out the length you want for the crop top. So go ahead and measure from your shoulder to where you want the crop top to stop. So for this, I'm making use of 16 inches as the length. That is how long I want this crop top to be, or how short I want it to be, whichever. So I'll go ahead and connect these dots to get a straight line like this. After getting a straight line, I will go ahead and divide the round bust measurement and also mark it out on this line. So the round bust measurement I'm making use of is 37 divided by 4 gives me 8.75. I'll go ahead and mark 8.75 here. Now I'll connect this 8.75 to meet the chest line or the bust like this. So at this point, the boba crop top pattern is ready. So for the allowance, let me cut this out first. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out like this, and yeah, our pattern is set. So yeah, I'll be leaving 1 inch for the hemming allowance, 1 inch for the side seam, 1/2 inch for the shoulder, 1/2 inch for the armhole allowance. Now for the neckline, I won't be adding any form of allowance to this neckline because I want the neckline to be as wide as possible to be able to pass through the person's head once the person is putting it on, because there is no zip at the back. So no need for allowance on the neckline. Now I'll go ahead and draft out the sleeve. If you already know how to draft the sleeve, you can, just be patient with us. Let's do this drafting. So for drafting out a sleeve, you also go ahead, get a new pattern paper, come down by 1 inch. So, but for this, I'll be coming down by 1/2 inch. Yeah, because this pattern paper, I'm trying to manage this particular one for the sleeve. So I'll just go ahead and come down by 1 inch. And then just rule it to get the starting line or the top line like this. Yeah. So from this top line, you have to mark out your cap height line. Now to get the cap height line for the individual, go ahead and divide the round bust measurement by 12 plus 1 inch. So after calculating, I have 4.41, and that is what I am marking out, 4.41. which is the cap height measurement for this individual. And I'll go ahead and connect those dots to get a straight line. So go ahead and calculate for the cap height of the person you're drafting for the sleeve and mark it out. Now, after doing this, this is the cap outline. Normally, when marking out the bicep on your cap outline, you divide your round bust measurement by 6, and whatever you get, you mark it on this cap outline. But because I added ease to the boba, I also need some form of excess on this sleeve. So I'll go ahead and divide the round bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5, and whatever I get, I'll mark it out here. That is how to get the bicep. Or you can divide your round bicep measurement by 2 and mark it out. That is after measuring your round bicep. Yeah. Next, I'll go ahead and measure how long I want the sleeve to be. So obviously this sleeve is going to be a long sleeve. Go ahead and measure from your shoulder to your wrist and mark it out. So for this, I have 24 inches, which is almost me exhausting this paper. Yeah. Now I'll go ahead and measure around the wrist, and whatever I get, I would, divided by 2. So around the wrist gives me 7 inches, which is 3.5 after dividing by 2, and I've marked that out. And I'll connect this wrist measurement straight to meet up with this bicep here, to meet up with the bicep measurement here. So I think my pen, the ink is about to finish, so I'm just trying to trace this out twice so it will show. Next, I'll connect the bicep to meet up with the starting line here to get this form of triangle. So I'll get the midpoint of this triangle by obviously placing my tape from this point to this point and folding the tape over like this. I'll go ahead and fold the tape over like this, and I'll press this edge here, and the markings I get there is my midpoint. Now I'll go ahead and come up by ½ an inch from that midpoint, and I'll bring in my curve rule to curve like this. So the curve should not exceed the ½ an inch that I came up with. So you go ahead and curve this to meet up with the starting line or the top line like this. And to meet up with the bicep, you turn your curve rule like this, and you connect like so. So at this point, the sleeve is ready, almost ready, not ready, almost ready. So I'll go ahead and cut out the sleeve. Now I will place the sleeve on the fabric, and as you can see, the fabric is on fold. I have folded it into 2, making sure the wrong side is outside because I don't want the right side to be stained, because I'm going to chalk on this. Now I'll come down by 1 inch for aiming allowance. So I'll go ahead and chalk 1 inch like this. Next is to mark out the wideness you want for the bare sleeve. So on this 1 inch point, mark out how wide you want it to be. So for me, I'm okay with 13 inches, which I have marked out, and I'll connect it back to meet up with this 1 inch like this to form a straight line. So you can make use of 14, 15, 16, depending on how wide you want the bare sleeve to be. For me, 13 inches is okay for me for the wideness of the bare sleeve. Now, as this sleeve curve come up by ½ an inch, this ½ an inch is going to be used for joining the sleeve to the boba shirt. So you come up by ½ an inch like this, and this sleeve cap come out by 1 inch. Yeah, for the sewing allowance, you come out by 1 inch. Now you connect this 1 inch allowance at the sleeve cap, connect it straight down to meet up with the 13 inches wideness like this. So you can use either your curve rule or your hands like me, whichever you want to make use of. For me, I prefer using the hands to using my hands to just connect it. So now the bare sleeve has this form of V shape or slanted shape. So I'll fold the paper tape, I'll fold over the pattern paper. Now I'll bring in my tape, and at this point of the sleeve, I'll come up by 1.5 inches like this. Now to connect this to the 13, back to the 13 inches, you can use either the straight line or the curved side. For me, I would use the curved side. So if you want to aim without using the bias, make use of the straight side to just slant it. But if you want to make use of the bias, make use of the curved side to slant this to the 13 inches. It will give you that curved shape that you see on the sleeve, but you would have to make use of the bias in turning the hem of the sleeve. So I've cut out this pattern, and I'll go ahead and use this to cut out another sleeve. It has to be 2 sleeves. Now this is the front pattern which I've used to cut out the fabric, and you can see the allowance: 1 inch at the hem, 1.5 inch on the side, and half an inch at the waist. And you can see the center was on fold, no opening at the center. Make sure you always use your chalk to indicate the wrong side of the fabric. Now for the linings, I made the linings half an inch shorter than the main fabric because I want it to be like this on the inside after stitching up the skirt. So this is the skirt, and you can see the center front is on fold. There is no opening at the center front. That is how it should be. So right now I'll go ahead and place my lining, making sure the right sides are on each other. I'll place the lining on the fabric, and I'll close up the sides. You first of all close up the hem before you go ahead and close up the sides. So go ahead and close up the hem, and after closing up the hem, you go ahead and close up the sides. Now this is the back pattern. For the back pattern, you can see I left 1 inch for the hem, 1 inch for the zipper allowance, 1.5 for the side seam, and half an inch for the waist. And also I'll go ahead and remove the pattern paper as well. Make sure you notch the zipper side so you know where is your center back on your fabric. Yeah, make sure you notch the zipper side. So you can see I've also cut out the lining as well. Now I'll go ahead and indicate, make sure you indicate the wrong side of your fabric. So I'll go ahead and bring in my lining and place it on the right side of the fabric, making sure that the center backs are aligned on each other correctly. So I'll go ahead and stitch up the hem before stitching up the sides using half an inch. Yeah, and I'll do the same thing on the other part of the back pattern as well. Stitch up the hem before stitching up the sides using half an inch, and make sure the center backs of the fabric and the lining are aligned on each other. Next, I'll bring in the boba pattern. So for the boba pattern that was drafted out, I've used it to cut out both the front and the back. The front and the back pattern are the same thing, so there's no need of drafting another back pattern. The front and the back are the same thing, so use the pattern to cut out the front and the back fabric. So you can see the hem I left: half an inch on the shoulder, half an inch on the armhole, 1 inch on the side, and 1 inch at the hem as well, for both the front and the back fabric. Now I'll go ahead and remove the boba, and now remove the pattern rather. And now for the necklines, I'll be needing the bias. Yes, so get a bias for it. I'll be using a black bias, and make sure you always indicate on the wrong side of the fabric. Like you can see this print now, it's difficult to tell the right side from the wrong side, so you just have to indicate the wrong side so that you don't get confused when you're stitching up. That's another form of work on its own if you get confused, so you just have to avoid that scenario. So now I'll be using this bias for the neckline and for the hem of the sleeve. So for the neckline, you go ahead and stitch the bias to the neckline on the right side of your fabric using about 0.25 or half an inch for the sewing allowance. So you stitch the bias round like this, and after stitching the bias round on the right side of your fabric, you turn the bias over like this to the wrong side of your fabric and stitch it round as well neatly. So you also repeat the same thing on the other pattern of the boba crop top. You also repeat the same thing on the neckline. Now for the front skirt, as you can see, I have closed up the hem, closed up the sides, and when I turn it over like this, you can see the fabric is coming in. That's why I made the lining half an inch shorter than the fabric. And after doing that, I turned this to the right side and I closed up the waist. So you can see I run a tiny stitch through the waist. Yeah. Then for the back pattern, I also did the same thing. Make sure you iron after turning to the right side. Make sure you iron. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and place the back pattern on the front pattern, making sure the right sides are aligned on each other. And I'll go ahead and close the side seam using 1 inch. And I'll do the same thing on the other side of the skirt as well. Close up the side seams using 1 inch. So make sure you iron after every stitch. So now for the waistband, as you can see, I have also cut out the waistband. I cut out 2 of this waistband, one for the front, one for the back as well. And as you can see, the center front is on fold, no opening at the center front, as you can see. Now you can see that the top I left half an inch, for the down I left half an inch, and for the center back here I left 1 inch. Now normally, like I explained earlier on, I do leave the top on fold, meaning this curving will not be there, but today I try to be different. I want to do something differently. Now for the boba, make sure you aim the down as well. Aim the down of the boba. Yeah, on my various videos I've taught on how to aim, and then I went ahead to close up the shoulders after piping the neckline. Yeah, what we just did but with that bias is called piping. So I've done that and I've closed up the shoulders and I have aimed the down of this boba. So before closing the side seam, we'll go ahead and attach the bell sleeve. So I'll go ahead and bring in the bell sleeve right now and remove the pattern. So after removing the pattern, I'll go ahead and notch on the center of the sleeve, just to get the center, just to know that okay, this is the center, so that will be easier to place this on the shirt or the boba to finish up with the sewing. So when placing it, make sure this notch side is lying on the shoulder, and make sure that the right side of your fabric is the right side of the sleeve is on the right side of the shirt. Yeah, and the center of the sleeve is lying on the shoulder of the shirt. Then you go ahead and use your pin to pin it like this, and then you go ahead and stitch it up using half an inch. You stitch it up using half an inch. That is that half an inch allowance that you left while cutting out the fabric. So you go ahead and use that half an inch to close it up, and you do the same thing on this other side as well. So you'll be doing the same thing on the other sleeve as well. So you go ahead and close it up. Now for the waistband, as you can see, I have ironed paper stay to it. So you can iron paper stay or stay, whichever you want. So for me, I have ironed paper stay. As you can see, I ironed paper stay. You can iron stay, anyone you want, but for me, I just choose paper stay. So this is what I have. So what I will do now is I will go ahead and place this on this, like this, the right sides, making sure they are facing each other and making sure the upper parts aligns. Make sure you notch the sides of your waistband, notch the center front of your waistband, indicate where this center front is, indicate where the upper side of your waistband is, indicate where the downside of your waistband is, so you don't get confused. And then I'll go ahead and close it up using half an inch at the top and 0.25 inch at the center back. Yes. And after doing that, I will open up and top stitch. So I'll just do that and come back and show you guys. So I'm just going to close the up now and the center back. Now for the boba, as you can see, I have attached the sleeves. As you can see, I have attached the sleeves like this. So you can see the sleeves has been attached. Now for the aim of the sleeve, you can either go ahead and aim it like this. You double fold it and run a stitch through it. That is if you are using the straight part of the rule. If you use the straight part of the rule to form the slant. But if you use the curved part of the rule, you go ahead and use your bias to, pipe it as well, to aim it as well. You get. Or you can go ahead and aim it like this if you use the straight part of your rule. So that is just it. Now it's time to, close this boba. We are almost done with the boba crop top. So you go ahead and arrange your bobas together. Arrange the boba together, and I'll go ahead and close up the side seam of the boba using 1 inch. That's the 1 inch seam allowance, and also close up the sleeve as well. Now the next thing after doing that is to cut off the excess that I said will be left at the bicep point. So you can see that there's an excess at the bicep point. So I'll go ahead and cut off that little excess like this, and then I'll be left with 1 inch allowance at the bicep, 1 inch sewing allowance. So right now this is the boba and it is ready. So you can see the bell sleeve, it came out nicely. Yeah, and it's all looking good. Now for the waistband, as you can see, I've turned it to the right side after stitching and top stitching. So you can see I have top stitched as well. This is top stitch to the wrong side, that is to the back of the waistband. And now it's time to attach this to the skirt. And for the skirt, you can see that I left a little bit of slit at the down, about 2 inches or 3 inches from the skirt length, because this skirt is already short, as you can see. And then I've closed up the side seams as well. I've closed up the side. Then it's time to attach the waistband to the skirt. Now for the waistband, make sure the right side of the waistband, that is the side that is without the top stitch, make sure it's lying on the side right side of the skirt, and you go ahead and use 1/2 inch to close up the waist of the band and the skirt. You use 1/2 inch. Now before doing that, make sure you sew your darts together on your back pattern. I don't know why I always forget to skip this part. Make sure you sew your back together. Make sure you sew your darts, yes, on your back pattern by getting the midpoint of, you know, the pattern and then stitching up the darts before attaching the waistband. Yeah, so make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. Now after attaching the waistband, the next step is to go ahead and, you know, put in your zip. That's it. So the next step is to go ahead and sew in the zip after attaching the waistband. So I have this short bigot zip, that's what it's called. Yeah, you can get all of these things from the tailoring shop. So guys, this is it after it's done. Unfortunately, our owner is not here to, you know, put it on. So once I get a picture of this on its owner, on our owner, you see the picture on the thumbnail. So guys, this is it. It's looking so beautiful. So if this video was helpful to you and if you enjoyed this video, do well to hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up. So see you on my next video, guys. Love ya. And whatever parts seems confusing to you, just drop your question on the comment section and I'll try as much as possible to respond to you. So bye.